Charlotte Vowden. I am a writer, presenter and automotive adventurer. I am here today at Morris Lubricants HQ to find out about a brand new range of products they're launching with Technology Manager Adrian Hill. Hello.
Hi Charlie, you okay?
I'm very well, thank you.
Excellent, excellent.
It's a pleasure to be here today in some very prestigious surroundings. You've got over 150 years of history right here.
Yeah, absolutely. I think 154 years this year, which is 2023. So, yeah, we've been around.
So I'm here to learn all about the new range of antifreeze coolants.
Yes.
But what is an antifreeze coolant and what does it do?
Okay, so an antifreeze coolants have been traditionally kind of referred to as antifreezes. Everyone says, oh, antifreeze. But really, antifreeze coolant is a better description of it, because an antifreeze, yeah, it does that job. So when the weather gets cold, people think, oh, antifreeze, you know, because water freezes. And if water freezes an engine coolant system, it expands as it turns into ice and causes damage. So you need antifreeze in there to stop that from taking place. But on the flip side, what you want to do is optimize the running temperature of the engine as well, because once it gets hot, you don't want to get it too hot. Because if things get too hot, then they reduce in efficiency. And efficiency these days equals low emissions. So an antifreeze coolant is a better description for it. So it's about keeping the engine protected when things get cold, and so you don't get ice crystals forming, causing damage. But on the other flip side of that is to make sure that the engine stays at optimum running temperature range as well. So it's at its most efficient. So it's doing those two jobs, two very important jobs.
And do you think it's really important that people understand what an antifreeze coolant is? Because it's quite a confusing title, isn't it?
And I think it's very much been viewed as a commodity as well. You know, it's a bit like, I need some antifreeze, and I think people have chosen an antifreeze just on the basis that it's got that on the label, really, without looking a little bit more deeply into what type of antifreeze they should be using. And there's many different kinds, obviously, as you'll be aware, as we go forward. So I think antifreeze has been very much misunderstood as a critical component in how that engine works. Part of what we're doing and part of going forward now is to get a better understanding, or move that understanding onto the consumer, so they can make a better informed choice. And bearing in mind, the average age of a vehicle on the UK roads now is 10 years old. People aren't changing their vehicles as often as they used to. It's all about maintaining that vehicle's integrity for as long as possible, including the engine system. So people need to be more aware of how critical. People are very careful about choosing the correct engine oil. And there's a lot of time spent doing that. Obviously, we provide a lot of advice and training on that. But people tend to just see antifreeze, oh, I better get some antifreeze as well. Whereas actually, choice of the correct antifreeze is just as critical as getting the engine oil right as well.
So why is now a really crucial time for Morris Lubricants to launch this new range of antifreeze coolants?
Yeah, what we've seen, and again, as I say, part of my kind of day-to-day job as technology manager is to see where the trends and the forecasts and where things are moving into the future. And when you look back over the last 10 years, 5 years probably, even more so, the rate of change of design and engine technology has been quite dramatic. Everything's about reducing vehicle weight. So if you can get an engine which is lighter and smaller, but produces higher output, then you're onto a winner. But of course, that involves using new technologies in terms of metallurgy, different alloy systems. And so these kind of loadings on these engines now, the power densities are increasing all the time. The variety of different materials in there. Every OEM has got a different approach in order to address emissions requirements. So there's a myriad of different changes which are taking place. So what used to be the kind of standard antifreezes of yesterday, the old 2-year and 5-year antifreezes, they're not up to that now. They can't cope with these changes. So that's why we've had to look very carefully at what we've offered previously in the past, to make sure that our current offering of antifreeze coolants is right for today's demands, and that's why we've got new products coming through.
Do you think everyday drivers sort of realise that the evolution of the internal combustion engine, how far it's come, in the last 10, 15 years? Do you think they kind of realise that that also requires a more sophisticated product for an antifreeze coolant, for example?
I think perhaps not. I mean, I think one of the things that's happened again, and it's this kind of evolution of engine hardware technology, is that people servicing their cars on the drive anymore is a thing of yesteryear, unless you're obviously a skilled technician yourself. A modern engine has to be serviced at somebody who's trained to look at that engine. There's a lot of diagnostics take place, and there's a lot more complication now when you're servicing a modern engine. So I think the average car owner probably doesn't need to get into that depth, but of course you need to purchase correct top-up oil if you need top-up oil between services. And then, of course, making sure that when you do get to the point where you're changing your antifreeze coolant, you can make the correct informed decision on that. But I think because of the complexity of the way things have evolved, people have stood back a little bit from it and hope that the garages are doing it correctly. So a lot of this kind of this improvement in our antifreeze coolant range and various other things across our different markets is also communicating with the workshops and the repair centres and various other places that are probably doing the work on behalf of the customer. So it's a big education thing that we're looking at the moment.
Thank you so much for that lesson all about antifreeze coolants. If you want to learn more, you can head to the Morris Lubricants website or YouTube channel.